The divorce papers were still unsigned when Marin stepped into the elegant downtown restaurant and saw her husband gently brushing a strand of hair away from another woman's face. The room seemed to freeze around her, and every eye silently waited for an explosion. They expected tears, screaming, accusations, and humiliation. Instead, Marin smiled with heartbreaking calm, placed her wedding ring on the table without saying a single word, turned around, and walked away. She never looked back. In that single quiet moment, she shattered her husband's pride far more completely than anger ever could. If you believe kindness is stronger than revenge, forgiveness is more powerful than hatred, and hope can rise from even the deepest heartbreak, please like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who needs encouragement, and subscribe to our channel for more emotional journeys that remind us of the strength hidden inside ordinary people. Marin had spent 13 years building a life beside her husband, Colton. They had met in college with little money but enormous dreams. Together they survived unpaid bills, tiny apartments, second-hand furniture, and years of uncertainty before Colton's construction company slowly grew into a successful business. Friends admired them as the perfect couple who had conquered hardship together. What almost nobody noticed was that success changed only one of them. Marin remained grateful for every blessing, volunteering at community centers and remembering the struggles that had shaped them. Colton gradually became obsessed with appearances, expensive dinners, luxury cars, and the admiration of strangers who praised his growing wealth. When Colton hired a glamorous marketing consultant named Vanessa, compliments slowly replaced conversations at home. Business meetings became weekend trips. Phone calls were answered in whispers. Excuses became routine. Marin noticed every change but refused to spy on her husband because she believed trust meant something even when it hurt. She kept hoping the man she married would remember who he once was. One bright afternoon Colton finally admitted he had fallen in love with someone else. He claimed he deserved happiness after years of sacrifice. He insisted that people changed and that Marin had simply become too ordinary for the exciting life he wanted. His words cut deeper than any insult because they erased every struggle they had survived together. Even then, Marin did not beg. She simply listened with quiet dignity while the future she imagined disappeared piece by piece. Friends urged her to expose him publicly, demand revenge, or fight for every possession they owned. Others suggested confronting Vanessa and making sure everyone knew what kind of woman she was. Marin chose another path. She understood that bitterness would imprison her long after the marriage ended. She decided her energy belonged to rebuilding herself rather than destroying someone else. That decision confused everyone. Colton secretly expected dramatic arguments because they would have allowed him to justify leaving. Instead, Marin treated every legal meeting with respect. She accepted only what was fair and refused endless battles over money. Her calmness unsettled him more than rage ever could. He wanted to feel victorious, but every interaction reminded him that the woman he underestimated possessed a strength he had never appreciated. After moving into a modest cottage filled with sunlight and fresh flowers, Marin faced the quiet loneliness that follows broken dreams. The silence was painful during the first weeks, but slowly she began discovering pieces of herself that had been neglected for years. She returned to painting landscapes, something she had abandoned while supporting Colton's ambitions. She volunteered at a local literacy program, helping adults learn to read. Watching others gain confidence reminded her that healing rarely happened all at once. It arrived through countless small victories. One afternoon an elderly woman attending the literacy classes quietly thanked Marin for believing in people who had been overlooked their entire lives. Those simple words reached a place inside Marin that expensive gifts never had. For the first time since her marriage collapsed, she felt genuinely useful again. Meanwhile, Colton's new relationship appeared glamorous from the outside. Social media displayed luxury vacations, designer clothes, and smiling photographs. Yet behind those carefully edited images, constant arguments began replacing excitement. Vanessa loved the successful businessman but had little interest in the humble dreamer Marin once believed in. Every disagreement centered on appearances, status, or money. The home that once echoed with laughter became filled with competition over who deserved more attention. Colton noticed another painful difference. When he celebrated success with Maren years earlier, every achievement had felt shared. With Vanessa, every victory became another opportunity to spend more, impress more people, and chase even greater luxury. He had mistaken admiration for love. Months passed, and Maren's paintings unexpectedly attracted attention during a community art exhibition. Visitors were deeply moved by her landscapes because they reflected quiet resilience instead of perfect beauty. A local gallery owner offered to display her collection. Maren accepted with humble gratitude, never imagining that a forgotten hobby could become a meaningful career. As her artwork reached more people, invitations followed. She spoke at community events about rebuilding life after disappointment. She never criticized Colton publicly or revealed painful details. Instead, she spoke about choosing peace over revenge and courage over resentment. Listeners admired not only her talent but also her character. One sunny afternoon Colton attended one of her exhibitions after hearing colleagues praise an extraordinary local artist. He entered expecting curiosity but left overwhelmed with regret. The room was filled with visitors sincerely thanking Maren for inspiring them. Families purchased paintings not because they were fashionable but because they carried hope. Children smiled while creating art at workshops she organized for free. She stood among them with genuine happiness shining across her face. Colton suddenly realized something devastating. During their marriage he had often measured Maren's value by how much she supported his dreams. He had rarely asked about her own. The woman he once called ordinary had quietly become extraordinary simply because she finally had room to become herself. His business soon encountered serious financial challenges after several risky investments failed. The people who once praised his success quickly disappeared. Invitations stopped arriving. Expensive friends became distant. Vanessa, frustrated by shrinking luxury, gradually withdrew emotionally before ending their relationship altogether. She explained that she wanted a different future and walked away with the same ease that Colton had once walked away from his marriage. Standing alone inside his enormous house during another bright afternoon, Colton understood the loneliness he had caused. Wealth could purchase comfort but never loyalty. Pride had convinced him he deserved better than the woman who loved him unconditionally. Now pride left him completely alone. Instead of blaming others, Colton began volunteering at the same literacy center where Maren once served. At first he simply wanted to fill empty hours, but slowly he witnessed lives transformed through patience and compassion. He finally understood why Maren had dedicated herself to helping strangers instead of chasing status. Real fulfillment came from lifting others rather than being admired. Their paths crossed again during a community fundraiser held beneath warm afternoon sunshine. Friends nervously watched, wondering whether years of pain would finally erupt. Instead, Maren greeted Colton with quiet kindness. There was no bitterness in her eyes, only peaceful acceptance. She had already released the weight of the past. Colton apologized with complete honesty, admitting that he had confused excitement with love and pride with strength. He confessed that watching her flourish without revenge had become the greatest lesson of his life. He expected nothing in return because he knew forgiveness could never erase consequences. Maren listened carefully before thanking him for accepting responsibility. She explained that forgiveness did not mean forgetting the pain. It meant refusing to let that pain control the future. She wished him healing and sincerely hoped he would become a better man than the one who had broken her heart. Her words carried neither anger nor false hope of reconciliation. They reflected the quiet freedom of someone who had already found peace. As the fundraiser continued, families laughed together while volunteers distributed books to children. Maren watched young artists proudly display colorful paintings inspired by resilience. She realized that the darkest chapter of her life had unexpectedly guided her toward a purpose greater than the future she once imagined. Colton remained involved in community service, determined to rebuild his character rather than his reputation. He learned that respect must be earned through humility, consistency, and compassion instead of wealth or influence. Though he could never change his past, he chose to spend the rest of his life becoming someone worthy of the forgiveness he had received. Maren eventually expanded her art programs to schools, hospitals, and community centers, encouraging people of every age to express emotions through creativity. Countless individuals found hope because one woman refused to answer betrayal with hatred. Her quiet decision to walk away had become far more powerful than any argument ever could. Before we reach the end of this journey, we'd love to hear from you. Have you ever discovered that walking away with dignity was stronger than seeking revenge? Leave a meaningful comment and share the lesson this story reminded you of. Maren never regained the marriage she had lost, but she found something even more valuable. She rediscovered herself. She proved that dignity speaks louder than revenge, that kindness outlasts betrayal, and that true strength is often revealed in the moments when nobody expects it. Colton spent years believing success made him powerful, yet the greatest display of power he ever witnessed was a woman quietly placing down her wedding ring, turning away without hatred, and building a beautiful life that no betrayal could ever destroy. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, leave a meaningful comment, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to our channel so you never miss another emotional journey. May this story remind you that losing the wrong person can sometimes be the first step toward finding the life you were truly meant to live, and that the strongest victories are often won not through revenge, but through grace, courage, and hope.